The text came at 11:47 p.m. on December 23rd. Charlotte, we've decided it's best if you don't come tomorrow. You just don't fit our family's standards. 4 years of love, reduced to a text from his mother while he sat silent beside her. Before we start, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. My name is Charlotte Hayes, and at 26, I thought I had found my forever. But let me take you back to where this story really begins. Not in a Manhattan penthouse or a Greenwich mansion, but in a cramped two-bedroom apartment above Hayes Family Bakery in Astoria, Queens, where the radiator clanged like a ghost with anger issues and the walls were so thin you could hear Mrs. Chen's Korean dramas through the plaster. I was 7 when my father left, leaving nothing but debt and my mother's tears soaking into flour-dusted aprons. Mom worked 3 jobs until her heart gave out when I was 15. After that, it was just me and Grandma Rose, a woman who could stretch $1 into a week's worth of meals and still somehow make you feel rich. She taught me that dignity wasn't about what you had. It was about who you were when you had nothing. Every morning at 4 a.m., we'd knead dough together, her arthritis-gnarled hands guiding mine, whispering stories of coming to America with $12 and a suitcase of dreams. I studied by the light of the bakery's neon sign because it was cheaper than keeping our apartment lights on past 9. Every A on my report card meant one less worry line on Grandma's forehead. When I got into nursing school with a partial scholarship, she cried into the sourdough starter she'd kept alive for 30 years. "You're going to be somebody, Charlotte," she said, flower handprints on my cheeks like a blessing. Somebody who helps people. Somebody who matters. Nursing school was brutal. I'd leave the bakery at 6 a.m. for classes, attend lectures until 3 p.m., study until 7, then work the emergency room filing desk until 2 a.m. for minimum wage, and the chance to watch real nurses save lives. My classmates complained about the workload while spending spring break in Cancun. I spent mine holding the hands of dying patients who had no one else, learning that sometimes the medicine that matters most is simply showing up. I graduated summa cum laude, my white coat a size too big because I'd bought it secondhand, but my pride couldn't have been larger. St. Mary's Hospital hired me immediately, not because I had connections, but because I'd volunteered there so many hours they joked I should pay them rent. My supervisor said I had something they couldn't teach in school, the ability to see past the illness to the person beneath. That's how I met Marcus Wellington III. Not at a charity gala where I was a guest, but where I was drawing blood from donors, my scrubs wrinkled from a 16-hour shift. He'd been dragged there by his mother for the photo opportunity, but he stayed because he got dizzy at the sight of the needle. I held his hand, told him about Mrs. Rodriguez in room 302 who needed the blood he was giving, made him laugh with stories of my grandmother threatening to beat cancer with a rolling pin. "You're different," he said, color returning to his face. "Real." I should have heard the surprise in his voice, the way real sounded like an exotic species he'd discovered. But I was 22, exhausted, and he looked at me like I was magic in scrubs and orthopedic shoes. When he showed up the next day with coffee, the good kind, not the hospital sludge, and asked about Mrs. Rodriguez, I thought I'd found someone who could see past the silver spoons to find something sterling. How wrong I was, but every story needs its beginning, and mine began with a girl who believed that love could bridge any distance, even the gulf between Queens and Greenwich. Sunday mornings with Marcus were sacred. We'd wake up in our modest apartment in Forest Hills. I'd refused his offer of a penthouse, insisting we build something that belonged to both of us, not just his trust fund. The place wasn't much. Exposed brick that was actually exposed because the plaster was crumbling, a kitchen so narrow we had to dance around each other to cook, and windows that rattled when the J train passed. But it was ours. Marcus would wake up first, trying to surprise me with breakfast. inevitably setting off the smoke alarm that was sensitive enough to detect stern thoughts about burning things. "How do you burn water?" I'd laugh, rushing out in his Columbia t-shirt to save whatever he'd attempted. He'd wrap his arms around me from behind while I scrambled eggs properly, his chin on my shoulder, humming off-key to whatever played on my grandmother's old radio. "This is what I never had," he'd whisper into my hair. "Someone who doesn't need me to be Marcus Wellington III. Just Marcus who can't cook eggs but makes excellent coffee." By 9 a.m., we'd be at Grandma Rose's bakery. The first time I brought him there, I was terrified. The floors were uneven linoleum from the 70s, the display case held together with duct tape and prayer, and the customers were mostly construction workers and night shift nurses grabbing something before bed. Marcus walked in, wearing a $1,000 sweater, and immediately got flour on it, helping Grandma reach a high shelf. By the third Sunday, he had his own apron. Fancy boy, embroidered in pink, because Grandma had a sense of humor. He learned to work the ancient register that required hitting it twice to open, charmed the Sunday breakfast rush with stories, and never once mentioned that his family's kitchen staff was larger than our entire customer base. The bakery became our universe. Marcus would sit at the cracked Formica counter, laptop out, working on his sustainable technology startup, the one his parents called a phase because it focused on bringing clean energy to low-income neighborhoods instead of maximizing profits. I'd refill his coffee between customers, steal kisses between orders, and watch him explain solar panels to Mr. Rodriguez like he was discussing the Knicks' chances this season. Emma, his younger sister, started joining us, escaping what she called the Wellington Warden system for real conversation and Grandma's cinnamon rolls. "Your family's not what I expected," she told me once, helping me frost cupcakes for a church fundraiser. "You actually like each other." The sadness in her voice broke my heart. She was 23 with a Princeton degree she never wanted, and an engagement to a senator's son she'd never chosen. In our kitchen, she could admit she wanted to be a teacher, work with special needs kids, marry for love, not mergers. Evenings, Marcus and I would collapse on our secondhand couch, a hideous orange thing from the 70s that was somehow the most comfortable piece of furniture ever created. We'd eat takeout from the Chinese place downstairs where they knew our order by heart. Chicken lo mein for him, shrimp fried rice for me, extra fortune cookies because Marcus collected the fortunes, taping the promising ones to our refrigerator. We planned our wedding between bites. Something small in Grandma's church, reception in the bakery after hours, honeymoon driving down the coast in the beat-up Volkswagen I'd bought with my first nursing bonus. "We could have the reception at the country club," he suggested once, then saw my face. "Or not. God, no. Definitely not. Your grandmother's bakery it is." He pulled me closer, my feet in his lap, his hand tracing circles on my ankle. "I love that our kids will grow up there, learning to bake before they can properly walk." Our kids. He said it so easily then, like our future was certain as sunrise. We'd stay up until 2 a.m. planning and dreaming. He wanted 3. I wanted 2. We compromised on letting fate decide, but agreed they'd have my work ethic and his trust fund redirected to charity. They'd know both worlds, but belong to themselves. Those Sunday mornings feel like a dream now, but they were real. Every flower-dusted kiss, every burned breakfast, every moment when love felt bigger than the distance between Queens and Greenwich. The first crack appeared at his mother's 60th birthday party at the Greenwich Country Club. Patricia Wellington had called 3 times about my outfit, her voice dripping honey-coated concern. "Charlotte, dear, it's black tie, you understand? And when we say black tie, we mean, well, you know." I didn't know, but I learned. I saved for 3 months, skipping lunches, taking extra shifts, until I could afford a black cocktail dress from Nordstrom. Not the clearance rack. The real section where saleswomen offer champagne and remember your name. I spent hours getting ready that October evening. Professional makeup at a department store counter where I pretended I might buy something. Hairstyled at a salon that cost more than my weekly groceries. Nails done perfectly in Patricia's favorite shade of barely there pink she'd mentioned casually 3 times. Marcus whistled when he saw me, spinning me around in our tiny apartment. "You look like you belong on a red carpet," he said. "You look like you belong with me." The second sentence hit different, though I wouldn't understand why until later. The Greenwich Country Club was 40 minutes from Forest Hills but felt like crossing into another dimension. Valet attendants who avoided eye contact, a fountain that cost more than most people's houses, and a ballroom that whispered old money in every crystal reflection. We walked in together, Marcus's hand proud on my lower back, and I watched Patricia's face freeze mid-champagne sip. Her eyes scanned me from hair to heels, searching for flaws like a quality control inspector. "Oh, Charlotte," she said, loud enough for her circle of society wives to hear. "How brave of you to shop retail." The women around her tittered, not quite laughing but not quite not. Mrs. Pemberton, dripping in diamonds that probably had names, looked at my dress with the kind of pity reserved for 3-legged dogs. "It's actually quite pretty," she said, for what it is. Silent but deafening. "Where did you say you were from again, dear?" "Queens," I answered, chin up. Marcus's hand tightened on mine. "Oh, how diverse," Patricia responded, the word diverse sounding like she was describing a disease. Marcus used to volunteer there in college. So important to give back to the less fortunate. The conversation moved on to vacation homes and which boarding schools were accepting legacy admissions, but I caught the looks. The way hands covered whispers when I approached the buffet. The way Marcus's father, Marcus Jr., kept introducing me as Marcus's friend, despite the 2-carat diamond glittering on my finger. The one Marcus had chosen over his mother's heirloom because we should start our own traditions. During dinner, I made the mistake of joining a conversation about business. I mentioned my grandmother's bakery expanding to a second location in Woodside, how I'd helped her secure the loan by writing the business plan. The table went quiet. Patricia's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "How quaint. A little family bakery. Marcus, remember when you wanted to be a firefighter at 6? Some dreams we outgrow." The table laughed. Marcus stayed silent, suddenly fascinated by his $60 salmon. His Harvard Business School ex-girlfriend, Anastasia Pemberton, was conveniently seated across from us. She spent dinner discussing her father's latest acquisition, her upcoming TED Talk on wealth management, her vacation home in the Hamptons, where Marcus practically lived that one summer, didn't you? She touched his hand when she laughed. He didn't pull away. I watched Patricia watch them, her smile growing wider with each interaction. "Your grandmother makes bread, doesn't she?" Anastasia asked me directly, the first time she'd acknowledged my existence. "How wonderfully authentic. There's something so honest about working with your hands." "Charlotte's a nurse, too." Marcus finally spoke up. "She's amazing at what she does." "Of course she is," Patricia interjected. "Service professions are so noble. So necessary." She said necessary the way you'd describe a colonoscopy. The drive home was silent until we hit Queens. "They were just—" Marcus started. "I know what they were," I said, watching my neighborhood's familiar bodega lights blur past. That night, he held me tighter than usual, like he was trying to squeeze the evening out of existence. But something cold had settled in my chest, a whisper that sounded like his silence when his mother laughed at my dreams. "She didn't mean it that way," Marcus assured me the next morning, bringing me coffee in bed. My favorite hazelnut blend from the corner deli, not the imported Brazilian beans his family preferred. The steam rose between us like a peace offering. Mother's just particular. She comes from a different generation, different world. She'll warm up once she really knows you. I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to believe him. I sat up in bed, taking the coffee, searching his face for the certainty I needed. Marcus. She made me feel like I was the help who'd accidentally sat at the dinner table. That's not. He sat beside me, pulling me against his chest where I could hear his heartbeat, steady and sure. You have to understand, she spent 60 years in that bubble. She doesn't know how to relate to people who've actually worked for things. It's not personal. It felt personal when she laughed at my grandmother's bakery. She laughs at everything she doesn't understand. Last year, she mocked cryptocurrency until father made a fortune on Bitcoin. Now she pretends she discovered it. He kissed my temple, my cheek, the corner of my mouth. Give her time. Give me time to show them who you really are. So I tried harder. I bought etiquette books, studying them like medical textbooks. Emily Post's Etiquette became my Bible, hidden under nursing journals so Marcus wouldn't see how hard I was working to fit into his world. I practiced walking in heels in our apartment at midnight after he'd fallen asleep, until my feet bled into tissues I'd flushed down the toilet. I learned the difference between a salad fork and a dinner fork, a shrimp fork and a dessert fork, though we ate most meals with plastic utensils from takeout containers. When Patricia mentioned offhandedly that their favorite charity needed volunteers for their annual gala, I signed up for 20 hours a week on top of my 12-hour hospital shifts. I organized their donor files, updated their website, hand-wrote 200 thank you notes in calligraphy I taught myself from YouTube videos. Charlotte's helping with the charity, Marcus told his mother proudly at their weekly lunch. Wonderful, Patricia had replied. They do need someone to handle the menial tasks. When she complained about finding good help for their estate, I quietly recommended my cousin Maria's cleaning service, then secretly paid the difference when Patricia offered 30% below their usual rate. Maria needed the money. New baby, husband laid off from construction work, and I needed Patricia to see I could be useful. Your cousin does adequate work, Patricia told me later, though she does seem to have trouble with the silver. Must be genetic. Marcus's father loved golf. I'd never held a club in my life, but I took lessons every Saturday at dawn at the public course in Forest Hills, the only time I could afford the discount rate. The instructor, a retired cop named Tommy, didn't understand why I was crying over my grip until I explained I needed to be perfect by the next family gathering. Sweetheart, he said, watching me swing until my hands bled through my gloves. No golf game is worth this. But he didn't understand. It wasn't about golf. You don't need to change, Marcus would say when he'd find me asleep over etiquette books, when he'd see the blisters from heels I was breaking in, when he'd catch me practicing small talk in the bathroom mirror. I fell in love with Charlotte from Queens, not some Greenwich clone. But his eyes would drift when Anastasia appeared at family functions, gliding through their world like she was born to it, which she was. She knew which wines to order, which artists to discuss, which boarding school scandals to whisper about. I watched him watch her, saw the ease in his shoulders when she made his parents laugh with some story about summering in Martha's Vineyard. I love you, he'd say after every family event, holding me close in our bed that suddenly felt smaller. I'd count the seconds before he said it. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. They grew longer each time like he was trying to convince himself. 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. I love you too, I'd whisper back, tasting the copper edge of doubt. But I pushed it down, swallowed it with my pride, and kept trying. Love was supposed to conquer all, wasn't it? Even the distance between Queens and Greenwich. Even the silence that grew longer with each Mississippi. The wedding planning binder should have been in Marcus's home office, the converted bedroom where he kept his startup documents, and the vision boards for sustainable energy projects his parents called adorable. I'd only gone to the Wellington estate that Thursday afternoon because Patricia had called, sugar sweet, asking if I could drop off the charity auction items I'd collected. Marcus was in Boston for a conference. I should have wondered why she specifically wanted me to come when he wasn't there. The house was empty except for the housekeeper, Gladys, who'd always been kind to me, sneaking me sympathetic looks when Patricia's barbs landed too deep. "Mrs. Wellington is in her study," she said, but her eyes warned something I didn't catch. She said to just leave the boxes there. Patricia's study was a shrine to old money, first edition books she'd never read, certificates of pedigree for horses she'd never ridden, and photographs from galas where everyone looked constipated with importance. I set down the auction items, 17 designer handbags I'd spent weeks collecting from hospital donors, when I saw it. A white binder, pristine and professional, labeled Wellington Pemberton Union in gold embossing. My hands moved before my brain could stop them. The first page was a wedding invitation, Marcus Wellington III and Anastasia Claire Pemberton. Date, June 15th, 2025. Venue, the Wellington Estate, Greenwich, Connecticut. My birthday. They'd planned it for my birthday. Each page was a knife sliding between ribs. Anastasia in wedding dresses at Kleinfeld. The appointments dated 3 months ago when Marcus had said he was visiting clients in Singapore. Flower arrangements of white orchids and roses. No carnations, Patricia's handwriting noted. Too common. The carnations I'd suggested for our wedding because they were Grandma Rose's favorite. Menu tastings from Le Bernardin with wine pairings that cost more than my monthly rent. A guest list where my family occupied table 19, the one by the service entrance. Hayes family, obligatory, written in Patricia's hand. But it was the margins that destroyed me. Patricia's notes like poisonous breadcrumbs. If we can just delay until spring, Marcus will see reason. The nurse is a phase. Below it, in Marcus Sr.'s blocky script, Pemberton merger worth 50 manisters. Don't let him throw this away. Investment documents, contracts, a prenuptial agreement already drawn up. Anastasia would get everything if they divorced. She'd signed it. Marcus's signature line was blank, but there was a sticky note. Sign before announcement. At the bottom of one page, most damning of all, Marcus's own handwriting. I knew it like my own heartbeat. The way his G's looped, how he pressed too hard when stressed. I know, but I need more time to figure out how. Figure out how to what? Leave me? Convince me? Make me disappear quietly like a mistaken diagnosis? The room spun. I photographed everything, my hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries per page. The charity items scattered across Patricia's Persian rug as I stumbled backward, knocking over a Waterford vase that didn't break, but rolled under her desk with a sound like thunder. Oh dear. Patricia stood in the doorway, not even pretending surprise. She was dressed for tennis, all white like an angel of death. I specifically asked Gladys to move that binder. So careless of her. You're planning his wedding. To someone else. We're planning the family's future, she corrected, stepping into the room like a cat cornering a mouse. Marcus will come to understand it's for the best. Men often need help seeing what's right in front of them. He loves me. He loves the idea of you. The rebellion you represent. The little nurse who saved him from his big bad privileged life. She picked up the fallen vase, examining it for damage. But ideas fade, Charlotte. Reality remains. And the reality is, you'll never be one of us. You'll always be the girl who has to check prices, who doesn't know which fork to use without checking, whose grandmother makes bread because she has to, not because it's artisanal. You're wrong. Am I? Has he proposed a date? Introduced you to his colleagues at the firm? Included you in the family trust announcements? Each question was a bullet, And we both knew every answer was no. I'll give you credit, dear. You lasted longer than the yoga instructor he dated in college. But all phases end. I ran. Out of her study, past Gladys's sympathetic face, into my beat-up Honda that looked like a tumor in their circular drive. Patricia found me vomiting in her marble powder room when I couldn't make it to my car. "Oh dear," she said again, handing me a monogrammed towel I wouldn't use. "Morning sickness already? How predictable." I confronted Marcus that night in our apartment. He'd come home from Boston early, texting cheerfully about catching an earlier flight to surprise me. I sat on our hideous orange couch, the wedding binder photos spread across our coffee table like evidence at a murder scene, waiting. When his key turned in the lock, my heart cracked like ice under weight. "Char, I grabbed Thai food from that place you—" He stopped, takeout bags suspended in midair, his face cycling through emotions like a slot machine. Confusion, recognition, guilt, fear. And finally, a terrible exhaustion that aged him 10 years. "Where did you get those? Does it matter?" My voice came out stranger's steady, like I was asking a patient about their pain level. "Tell me you didn't know about the wedding binder. Tell me you haven't been planning an exit strategy while I've been planning our life." He set down the takeout slowly, the smell of pad thai making my stomach turn. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." The scream ripped from somewhere deep. 3 years of keeping myself small, quiet, appropriate, shattering like Patricia's champagne flutes. "Tell me why there's another woman's face where mine should be. Tell me why she's tried on wedding dresses while I've been saving for hours. Tell me why you wrote, 'I need more time to figure out how.'" He sat on our second-hand couch, the one he'd claimed to love, where we'd planned babies and dreams and Sunday dinners for decades to come. His shoulders collapsed inward like a building imploding. "They'll cut me off, Char. Everything." "Everything?" I laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. "What's everything, Marcus?" "The trust fund, the company position, the family name, the connections. Without them, I'm nobody. You're somebody to me. That's not enough." The words hung between us for 3 seconds before he tried to swallow them back. "I mean, it is. But, Christ, Charlotte, you don't understand what you're asking. I'd have nothing. We'd have nothing. We'd have each other. We'd have our work. Your startup is funded by my father's friends. They'd pull out the second he asked." He stood, pacing our tiny living room in 4 steps, turning, 4 steps back. "The apartment, the ring, the future we planned, it's all built on Wellington money. Without it, I can't give you anything. I never asked for anything but you. And you'd get me, broken, useless, working some middle management job, shopping at discount stores, clipping coupons like—" He stopped, but we both heard the rest. "Like your family. Like my family who built something from nothing. Like my grandmother who raised me with love instead of trust funds. Like the life that was good enough for me but apparently not good enough for you to share." His phone buzzed, then mine. Patricia's text was a masterclass in cruelty, each word chosen for maximum damage. "Charlotte, we've decided it's best if you don't come tomorrow. You just don't fit our family's standards. Marcus will explain. We've invited the Pembertons instead. I'm sure you understand." I showed him the screen, my hand steady as a surgeon's. "Did you know?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "She said she was going to—" "Did you know?" I told her to wait, to let me handle it, to give me more time. Time for what? To let me down easier? To convince me to disappear quietly? To practice your breakup speech? I stood, suddenly needing distance from him, from his cologne that used to mean safety, from his hands that reached for me now. Were you ever going to choose me? Or was I just placeholder Charlotte until you found your courage to obey? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. I backed toward our bedroom. My bedroom now. You choose. Right now. Call your mother. Tell her you're bringing me tomorrow, or we're done. Show them. Show me. That I matter more than their money. His silence stretched like taffy, sweet and sticky and suffocating. He picked up his phone, stared at it, set it down, picked it up again. If I could just have until New Year's, let me ease them in too. 4 years, Marcus. 4 years of easing. 4 years of warming up. 4 years of me becoming smaller so your world could stay big. I was crying now, ugly sobs that came from somewhere prehistoric. When does it end? When do I become enough? You are enough. Then call her. He held the phone like it weighed 1,000 pounds. His thumb hovered over his mother's contact. 1 minute passed. 2. 3. The Thai food congealed on our counter. The radiator clanged its midnight song. Mrs. Chen's drama reached its climactic scene through the walls, someone wailing in Korean about betrayal. I can't, he whispered finally. I'm sorry, but I can't. Emma arrived at 2 a.m., mascara streaking her cheeks like black rain, her Hermes coat thrown over pajamas. Marcus had gone to his parents 2 hours earlier, claiming he needed to fix this, leaving me to pack alone in our apartment that now felt like a crime scene. I'd been sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes and the debris of our life together, when her frantic knocking started. Charlotte, please, I know you hate us all right now, but you need to hear this. You need to know everything. She was shaking. Her usual perfect composure cracked like expensive china. I couldn't let you leave without knowing what they've really done. I let her in because she looked as broken as I felt. She sat on our orange couch, pulling her knees to her chest like a scared child. It's so much worse than you think. So much deeper. Emma, I already know about the wedding. The wedding is just the visible part. It's about money, Charlotte. It's always been about money. She pulled out her phone, showing me bank statements, emails, documents she'd screenshot. The Wellingtons are broke. Not we need to economize broke. Bankruptcy broke. Criminal investigation broke. My brain, trained to process medical emergencies, shifted into clinical mode. Explain. Father has been embezzling from the company for 15 years. Bad investments, gambling debts to people who break kneecaps, a mistress in Miami with expensive tastes. Mother's spending is psychotic. She owes Bergdorf's alone over $2 million. The Greenwich house has 3 mortgages. The vacation homes are gone, sold quietly to friends to avoid attention. Everything is leveraged against everything else, a house of cards waiting for one breath to collapse. But the company is under federal investigation. The FBI doesn't know yet, but they will. Father's been cooking books, moving money through shell companies. The Pemberton merger isn't just preferred, it's essential. Without it, Wellington Industries dies in 6 months. Father goes to prison. Mother becomes a social pariah with a shopping addiction and no credit cards. Marcus knows? He found out 6 months ago, right after he bought your ring, actually. She laughed bitterly. The ring that cost more than Father could afford, bought with credit that doesn't really exist. They told him that night, marry Anastasia or watch the family destroy itself. And Charlotte. She paused, eyes scrolling to another document. They've been planning this since the day Marcus introduced you. Every dinner you weren't invited to, every family vacation you couldn't make. They were meeting with the Pembertons, negotiating terms. Anastasia's been picking out wedding dresses for 6 months. She has your ring size because they measured you at that charity fitting, remember? The one Mother insisted you attend? The fitting where they'd made me try on jewelry, for fun, taking detailed measurements for their records. I'd been so happy, thinking Patricia was finally including me. The drug allegations? Emma's face went darker. That's Mother's special touch. She has a contact at St. Mary's, someone on the board who owes the Wellingtons favors from better days. If you fight the breakup, make any trouble, go public. They'll file a formal complaint. Say you've been stealing opioids. They have falsified inventory documents ready to go. The investigation alone would destroy your career, even when you're cleared. Who hires a nurse accused of drug theft? That's criminal. Everything they do is criminal, just usually the white-collar kind that gets you country club sympathy instead of jail time. Emma pulled out a small recorder. I've been recording them for 3 years. Started when they tried to force me to marry Senator Blackwood's son, the one with the cocaine problem and wandering hands. I have everything. Every threat, every bribe, every tax evasion, every conspiracy. Why didn't you? Because I was a coward. Because they're my parents. Because I thought maybe Marcus would be strong enough to break free for you. She was crying again. But tomorrow, at Christmas dinner, they're announcing the engagement to both families. Pemberton's bringing contracts. Anastasia's wearing a 5-carat ring that looks like yours but bigger. The Times Society photographer will be there. Marcus doesn't know that part yet. They're counting on public pressure, family loyalty, and his fundamental weakness to make him comply. And if he doesn't? Then they destroy you both. Him financially, you professionally. They've done it before, Charlotte. Marcus's college girlfriend who got too serious, suddenly had drugs found in her dorm room, father's business partner who asked too many questions, his wife received photos suggesting an affair that never happened. They're scorpions, and you're in their nest. She handed me a USB drive. Everything's on here. 3 years of recordings, documents, evidence. Do what you want with it. But Charlotte, she gripped my hands, her manicured nails digging into my skin. There's something else you should know. Something about timing. After Emma left, I sat in our mint-green bedroom until dawn, surrounded by the archaeological evidence of a love I'd believed was eternal. The walls I'd painted myself over 3 weekends, Marcus holding the ladder, getting more paint on himself than the walls. This color is hope, he'd said, kissing green streaks onto my neck. Now it looked like hospital scrubs, that sick institutional green that meant something was dying. I couldn't move. My body had become a museum of our history, every surface holding a memory that cut deeper than Patricia's calculated cruelty. The dresser where he'd leave me notes on my long shift days. The mirror where we'd written silly messages in steam after showers, where "I love you" had been finger-painted so many times the glass seemed to remember it. The closet where his things took up 3/4 of the space while mine squeezed into corners, a perfect metaphor I'd been too love-blind to see. The pregnancy test in my purse felt radioactive. 2 pink lines I'd discovered that morning, waiting to share on Christmas as the ultimate gift. A baby who would never know their father's family, who would be better off for it. My hand moved to my still flat stomach, and that's when the sob hit. Violent, primal, the kind that comes from your DNA unraveling. I called my grandmother at 5 a.m., my voice so wrecked she barely recognized it. "Charlotte? Baby, what's wrong?" "Grandma, But how could I explain that I'd built my life on quicksand? That I'd been so desperate to be loved, I'd ignored every warning sign, every red flag, every moment of silence when he should have defended me? I need to come home." "Then come home, baby," she said simply, like it was that easy. "Just come home. Your room's waiting." But I couldn't move. The sun rose through our single window, casting light on the engagement ring I'd finally removed, leaving a pale band of skin like a scar. 4 years of wearing it, and my finger had adapted, molded around it. Just like I'd molded myself around Marcus's life, his family's expectations, Their world that never wanted me. I found myself cataloging everything, like a nurse documenting symptoms of a dying patient. The volunteer schedules with both our names, though he'd stopped showing up months ago. Too busy with the startup, he'd said, though I now wondered if startup meant Anastasia. The business plan for Grandma's third location, where I'd named him co-owner as a wedding surprise, giving him something that was truly ours, not theirs. The tickets to Miami I'd bought with my overtime pay, a honeymoon he'd never take with me. The morning news droned in the background. Wellington Industries announces record profits and upcoming expansion. Another lie. Everything was lies. Their money, their charity, their reputation, all built on fraud and held together by the threat of ruin, and Marcus had chosen that, chosen the lie over the truth of us. I laughed, harsh and bitter, the sound frightening me. It turned to sobs that left me gasping on our bathroom floor, my face pressed against the cold tile that had always been cracked, that we'd promised to fix someday. There would be no someday. There never had been. My phone buzzed with texts I didn't read. Marcus, probably, crafting apologies that meant nothing, promises he'd never keep. Or Patricia, gloating in her victory. Or wedding vendors wondering about the deposits I'd placed, the flowers I'd chosen, the cake we'd tasted while laughing at how the fancy fondant wasn't nearly as good as Grandma's simple buttercream. I must have passed out on the bathroom floor because I woke to afternoon light and my scrubs alarm going off. The 3 p.m. alert for my night shift. My body moved on autopilot, showering, dressing, because what else was there to do? But when I picked up my car keys, I saw our spare key. The one to his parents' house he'd given me. Because you're family. Family. The word broke something in me. I screamed into the towels that smelled like his cologne, screamed until my throat went raw, until Mrs. Chen knocked on the wall, until there was nothing left but emptiness and the terrible clarity that comes after everything burns. That's when I knew. I wasn't going to slink away. I wasn't going to be their casualty. If the Wellingtons wanted to destroy me, they'd have to do it in daylight, where everyone could see. The tears stopped. Something harder took their place. By noon on Christmas Eve, something crystallized in my chest. Harder than diamond, sharper than Patricia's tongue, more precise than any scalpel I'd wielded in the OR. The tears had dried into salt armor on my skin. I stood up from the bathroom floor, my knees creaking from hours of kneeling at the porcelain altar of my grief, and caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the eager girl who'd tried so hard to fit into their world. This woman had queens in her spine and fire in her eyes. I made 3 phone calls, each one a declaration of war. First, to my cousin Vinny, not the cleaner Maria, but the one who'd gone from construction sites to NYU law, who understood what it meant to be underestimated by people who confused pedigree with power. Vinny, they're threatening me with false drug theft charges. They have someone on the hospital board ready to file fake inventory reports. That's criminal conspiracy, extortion, defamation, and about 6 other felonies, he said, his Brooklyn accent thickening with anger. You recording this call? Everything's recorded from now on. That's my girl. Keep everything. Texts, emails, videos. Document every interaction. And Charlotte? Don't let them see you coming. Scorpions sting, but they don't see the boot until it's too late. Second call went to Janet Chen, not my neighbor, but my Columbia Journalism School friend, who'd covered healthcare for the Times before moving to investigative finance, the one who'd won a Pulitzer for exposing pharmaceutical fraud. Jan, you still interested in why Wellington Industries' numbers don't add up? Charlotte, Jesus, you sound like death. I have 3 years of recordings, FBI-worthy fraud documentation, and a family trying to sell their son for a merger while threatening to destroy a nurse who got in the way. The silence lasted 5 seconds. How fast can you get me copies? Give me 2 hours. Charlotte, this is dangerous. The Wellingtons have ruined people for less. They already ruined me. Now I'm returning the favor. The third call went to Emma. You want to hurt them like they've hurt you all these years? I need you to stay at that dinner tomorrow. Be my eyes. Tell me everything. Who sits where? What they say? When they plan the announcement. Charlotte, if they find out, they won't. You've been invisible to them for 23 years, Emma. Use it. For once, being the disappointment daughter they ignore will be your superpower. I spent the afternoon at Grandma's bakery, but not crying into dough like I'd expected. Instead, I was strategic, methodical, the way I'd learned to be during medical emergencies when emotion could kill someone. Grandma watched me knead bread with mechanical precision, each punch calculated. You gonna let that boy break you? She finally asked, flour dusting her silver hair like snow. No, Grandma, I'm going to let him break himself. She smiled then, the smile I'd inherited, the one that meant business. That's my Charlotte Rose. You know, your grandfather's family tried to run me off too. Said I wasn't good enough for their son, immigrant trash who'd drag him down. What did you do? Opened my bakery right across from his mother's favorite restaurant. Made it so successful she had to watch a line of customers choose my trash food over her fancy place every single day until they went under. She handed me a rolling pin, worn smooth by decades of use. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying them, baby. It's succeeding so beautifully they have to watch. This is different. They have money, connections. They have debt and lies. You have truth, and that Hayes spine that doesn't bend for anybody. She pulled out an ancient lockbox from under the register, revealing cash I didn't know existed. 15 years of skimming my own tips. $20,000. Enough for any lawyer you need. Grandma, I can't. You can and you will. Because they made one mistake, Charlotte. They thought you were just some girl from Queens who'd go quietly. She cupped my face in hands that had built an empire from flour and determination. Show them what Queens girls do when cornered. That evening, Emma texted, They think you're broken. Mom told everyone you had a breakdown when you found out you weren't welcome. They're planning the announcement for 8 p.m. Anastasia's wearing the ring. Dad's prepared a toast about family standards and appropriate matches. They have no idea what's coming. Good. Let them toast. Let them celebrate. Tomorrow, I'd show them what happened when you mistook kindness for weakness, when you thought working class meant worthless. Emma became my inside woman, years of being overlooked by her family finally serving a purpose. She'd spent her life as the Wellingtons' greatest disappointment. Too smart to be purely decorative, too rebellious to be molded, too honest to play their games. Now, her invisibility was my weapon. She forwarded emails while sitting at their breakfast table, photographed documents from her father's unlocked study while they discussed which champagne to serve with their triumph. Mother's in rare form, she texted at 3 p.m. on Christmas Eve. She's having the staff arrange the dining room so Anastasia sits in your spot. She actually used a measuring tape to ensure the place settings are perfect. The documents Emma sent were damning. Not just financial fraud, but a systematic pattern of destruction spanning decades. The college girlfriend Marcus mentioned once, they'd planted drugs in her car, had her arrested the week of finals, a business partner who'd asked too many questions. His daughter suddenly didn't get into Yale despite perfect scores after a Wellington call to admissions. They were a cancer disguised as society pillars, metastasizing their poison through every life they touched. My lawyer cousin Vinny worked through the night, fueled by espresso and righteous anger. This recording of them discussing the false drug charges, it's gold, Charlotte. Clear conspiracy, recorded in Patricia's own voice saying, "No one will believe trailer trash over us." That's motivation, premeditation, and class discrimination that'll play beautifully in court. He prepared 3 sets of documents: cease and desist letters with teeth, a criminal complaint ready for filing, and a civil suit that would strip them bare. The beautiful thing about rich people crimes, he explained, is they leave paper trails. They can't help themselves. Every crime has a receipt. Janet Chen, my journalist friend, had assembled a team of fact-checkers working through Christmas Eve. Charlotte, this is Pulitzer material. Wellington Industries cooked their books so thoroughly they're basically charcoal. Your recording of Marcus Sr. explaining the pyramid scheme to Emma? The FBI will orgasm when they hear it. When can you run it? I need verification from at least 2 more sources, but my editor's holding space for December 26th, day after Christmas, when everyone's bored, scrolling their phones, hungry for scandal. It'll trend for weeks. But the masterpiece of my revenge would be my appearance at their dinner, because at 3:30 p.m. Marcus texted, "Please come. I've fixed everything. They want to apologize." Emma's text came seconds later. He believes it. He actually thinks they've changed their minds. Mother told him you're invited, that they realize their mistake. The whole family's here. Anastasia's here with her parents. The ring's on her finger. The announcement is planned for 8 p.m. They want you here to witness it, to break you completely. Mother called it the final lesson. I smiled, the kind Grandma wore when someone tried to return week-old bread claiming it was fresh. They wanted to break me? They wanted a final lesson? I'd give them one. I chose my weapons carefully. Not the desperate designer dress they'd expect me to scramble for, but my grandmother's vintage Chanel suit, the one she'd saved for 5 years to buy in 1965, her first year in America. Real, authenticated, a piece of history that Patricia's knockoffs could never touch. The pearls my mother wore to her college graduation, each one representing a double shift at the factory that killed her. My nursing school honor society pin, my summa cum laude medal, placed exactly where Patricia displayed her bought and paid for philanthropy awards. In my purse, Emma's USB drive with every recording, Vinny's legal documents, and the ultrasound from yesterday's emergency confirmation. 10 weeks. Due in July. A baby who would never know the poison of the Wellington world. I texted Emma, "Tell them I'll be there at 7:30. Charlotte, are you sure? It's a trap." "I'm counting on it. Make sure Harold Fitzgerald is there." "The investor?" "He's already here. Mother invited him to witness the merger announcement." Perfect. Harold Fitzgerald, who'd invested $50 million based on fraudulent books, who had a reputation for destroying those who crossed him, who had no idea his money had already been spent on Patricia's shopping addiction and Marcus Sr.'s gambling debts. At 6 p.m., I stood in front of my mirror, applying lipstick steady as a surgeon's hand. Red, the color of Queen's blood and Wellington wine, the color of battles won by women who refused to bow. My phone rang. "Marcus. Where are you? Mother's actually being nice. She said she was wrong about you." "I'm coming, Marcus. Wouldn't miss it for the world." "Char, I love you. We're going to fix this." I hung up without responding. Love. He kept using that word. I don't think it meant what he thought it meant. But he'd learn. They'd all learn. Tonight, the girl from Queens was coming to dinner. I walked into the Wellington mansion at exactly 7:30, head high, stomach steel, the December cold still clinging to my grandmother's Chanel. The valet, different from usual, probably hired specially for tonight's grand announcement, barely looked at my Honda Civic, the only economy car in a sea of Mercedes and Bentleys. The house blazed with light, every window golden with promise of the massacre they'd planned for me. The door opened before I could knock. Gladys stood there, the housekeeper who'd watched this family's cruelties for 15 years, and her eyes widened at my transformation. "Miss Charlotte, you look like I..." Belong here? I asked, adjusting the pearls at my throat. Like you own here, she whispered, then louder. They're in the main dining room. I could hear them before I saw them. The tinkle of champagne flutes, the melody of old money laughing at new money's expense, Patricia's voice rising above it all like a conductor commanding her orchestra of sycophants. The walk to the dining room felt both endless and instant, my heels clicking on marble that had probably witnessed 100 other executions. I stopped in the doorway, letting them see me first. The room was staged like a wedding already. White orchids everywhere, no carnations too common. Candles reflecting off crystal that cost more than my yearly salary. And there, in what should have been my seat beside Marcus, sat Anastasia Pemberton. She wore winter white, her blonde hair swept into a chignon that probably cost $300, and on her left hand, a ring that caught the light like a small star. Bigger than mine had been. Gaudier. Perfect for them. Marcus stood when he saw me, his face cycling through relief, confusion, and then dawning horror as he realized what his mother had done. Charlotte, you came? Charlotte! Patricia's voice cut through everything, dripping honey over arsenic. How wonderful you could make it after all. We were just telling Anastasia how much we've enjoyed getting to know you these past years. The room turned to look at me. 50 faces of Greenwich society, the Pembertons clustered like antibodies around their daughter. Emma in the corner with her phone discreetly recording, and Harold Fitzgerald, the Wellington's biggest investor, watching everything with sharp eyes that had built a fortune on reading rooms. Mrs. Wellington, I said, my voice carrying the way it did when I called codes at the hospital, clear and impossible to ignore. Thank you for the invitation. I wouldn't miss this for anything. Well, she laughed, that silver bell sound that made my teeth ache. We thought it important you be here for Marcus's announcement. Marcus went white. Mother, we discussed. Oh, Marcus. Anastasia spoke for the first time, her voice like butter wouldn't melt. Don't be shy. Everyone's so excited about our news. She touched the ring, making sure I saw it, making sure everyone saw it. I walked fully into the room, noting the strategic placement. Photographers in the corner. Society pages, no doubt. The Pemberton patriarch next to Marcus Sr., with contracts visible in his briefcase. And my designated seat at the far end, by the kitchen door, where the help usually stood. Table 19 at the wedding had been generous. This was complete exile. Actually, I said, not moving toward my assigned humiliation. Before any announcements, I have something for Mr. Fitzgerald. Harold looked up from his champagne, surprised to be addressed. Patricia's smile flickered like a candle in wind. Charlotte, dear, surely business can wait. Oh, this can't wait, I assured her, pulling out my phone. Mr. Fitzgerald, as Wellington Industries' primary investor, you should know what your $50 million has actually been funding. The room went silent except for the grandfather clock in the corner, ticking toward 8 p.m. like a bomb countdown. Marcus Sr. stood abruptly. This is inappropriate. Inappropriate? I laughed, the sound bouncing off their coffered ceiling. Let's talk about inappropriate. Let's talk about fraud. Let's talk about the FBI investigation that's about to destroy everything in this room. Patricia's champagne glass slipped, shattering on the Persian rug with a sound like applause. The photographer raised his camera, sensing blood in the water. Harold Fitzgerald set down his glass and gave me his full attention, the kind that had terrified boardrooms for 30 years. You have 90 seconds, he said quietly. I smiled. My grandmother's smile, the one that built an empire from flour and determination. I'll only need 60. Before we celebrate the Wellington-Pemberton merger. Oh, excuse me. Engagement, I said, connecting my phone to their smart TV with the calm of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. I thought everyone should know what they're really investing in. The first document appeared on the 70-inch screen they used for Super Bowl parties and stock reports. Wellington Industries' real financial statements, not the doctored ones they'd shown investors. Gasps rippled through the room like dominoes falling. Harold Fitzgerald stepped closer, his face darkening with each line he read. "That's confidential." Marcus Sr. started moving toward me, but I was already swiping to the next document. Confidential? Like these emails discussing how to hide debt through shell companies? His own words filled the screen, dated conversations with his accountant about creative restructuring and investor management through selective disclosure. The Pemberton patriarch grabbed his briefcase, his face purple. "This is slander!" Patricia shrieked, but I was already playing the audio. Her voice filled the room through their premium sound system, crystal clear. "The nurse is just a placeholder. Once Marcus marries Anastasia, we'll have the Pemberton money to cover the debts. If Charlotte makes trouble, I have contacts at her hospital. We'll say she stole opioids. No one will believe trailer trash over us." The room erupted. Anastasia's father lunged for Marcus Sr., shouting about fraud and lawsuits. The society photographers were shooting rapid fire, sensing the story of the year. But I wasn't done. "Oh, and there's more," I continued, my voice cutting through the chaos. 3 years of recordings, tax evasion discussions, bribes to city officials, that building collapse in 2019 that killed 2 workers. They knew the structure was compromised, but didn't want to delay the project. Harold Fitzgerald was already on his phone, barking orders to his lawyers. "Freeze all Wellington accounts. Now." "You little bitch!" Patricia snarled, the lady mask finally slipping completely. "You think you've won? We'll destroy you. That drug charge will stick. You'll never work." "Actually," Emma stepped forward, her phone raised. "I've been live streaming this entire conversation to the Times. 20,000 viewers and climbing. Hi, Mom. Smile for your public." Patricia's face went from red to white to green, a Christmas color palette of rage. She turned on her daughter. "You ungrateful." "Grateful?" Emma laughed, high and bitter. "Grateful for what? The therapy? The eating disorder you gave me at 12? The forced engagement to a sexual predator because his father was a senator?" But the real twist came from Marcus. He stood, moving not toward his parents or Anastasia, but to me. "Charlotte, please. I choose you now. I see it all clearly. We can leave together. Start fresh." I looked at him, this man I'd loved with everything I had, and felt nothing. "Marcus, you made your choice every time you stayed silent, every time you let them humiliate me, every time you valued their money over my dignity." "But the baby," he said suddenly, desperately. "You're pregnant. I saw the test in the bathroom trash. It's mine. We're having a baby." The room went silent again. Even Patricia stopped mid-screech. "Yes," I said, placing the ultrasound on their mahogany dining table, right next to the Waterford crystal. "I'm pregnant. 10 weeks. Due in July." I looked him straight in the eye. "And you'll never be its father." "You can't. That's illegal. I have rights." "You have nothing," Vinny said, entering the room with perfect timing, looking every inch the shark lawyer in his best suit. "Extortion, conspiracy, defamation. Your family's looking at 20 years minimum. You really want to add a custody battle to your problems?" Harold Fitzgerald stood, his presence commanding the room. "This merger is dead. The FBI will be notified immediately. And Marcus," he turned to my ex-fiancé with disgust, "your career in this industry is over. Nobody will touch a Wellington after tonight." The photographer from the Times, Janet's colleague, stepped forward. "Mr. Wellington, any comment on the FBI investigation into your finances?" That's when Patricia did something I didn't expect. She laughed, bright, Sharp, hysterical laughter that made everyone step back. You think you've won? She looked at me with pure hatred. You've just guaranteed that child will be a bastard, that you'll be a single mother scraping by, that you'll end up just like your pathetic grandmother, dying over bread dough. Emma slapped her. The sound echoed off the ceiling like a gunshot. Charlotte's grandmother built an empire. From nothing. You built nothing but debt and lies. Who's pathetic now? Security arrived then, not the Wellingtons, but Harold's personal team. Everyone out except the family, he commanded. The FBI will want to interview you all. As I walked toward the door, Marcus grabbed my arm. Charlotte, please. I love you. The baby needs a father. I looked at his hand on my arm, then at his face, seeing him clearly for the first time. Weak. Spoiled. A boy playing at being a man. The baby needs a father with a spine. You still don't qualify. The last thing I heard as I left was Patricia screaming and the sound of handcuffs clicking. The Wellington Empire crumbled faster than week-old bakery bread left in the rain. Within 48 hours, the FBI had frozen their accounts, seized their assets, and opened investigations that would make holiday dinner conversation for years. The Greenwich estate, with its 3 mortgages and mountain of liens, went on the market by New Year's Day. The listing photos showed Patricia's precious art collection tagged with evidence numbers, her walk-in closet sealed with federal tape. Marcus Sr. was arrested on January 3rd, charged with embezzlement, wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. The photo of him in handcuffs made the Times' front page. Janet's article ran for 3 consecutive days, each revelation worse than the last. Turned out I'd only scratched the surface. The Wellingtons had been running their grift for 20 years, destroying anyone who got close to the truth. Patricia's fall was almost poetic. The charity boards expelled her within a week, her society friends disappeared like morning mist, and her credit cards were declined at Bergdorf's in front of a line of women she'd lorded over for decades. Emma sent me a video of Patricia being escorted out by security, screaming about knowing the owner. The owner, it turned out, was one of Harold Fitzgerald's golf buddies. St. Mary's Hospital cleared me immediately once the conspiracy was revealed. The board member who'd agreed to help Patricia was fired, and I was offered a promotion to head nurse of pediatric care with a public apology and a raise that would have made the old Charlotte cry. I accepted it all with the grace Grandma taught me. Head high, smile small, never gloat where they can see you. The settlement from my defamation suit came through in March. $2 million, plus legal fees. Patricia had to sell her jewelry collection to pay it. I used the money to expand Grandma's bakery into a chain of 5 locations across Queens and Brooklyn, each one employing women escaping bad situations, giving them what the Wellingtons never could: honest work and real dignity. Marcus tried everything. Flowers delivered daily until I had them redirected to the cancer ward. Letters proclaiming his love that I returned unopened. He showed up at the bakery once, thinner, wearing jeans I'd never seen him own, claiming he was working construction now, that he'd changed. Grandma threw flour in his face and told him to never come back, or she'd call her cousin Sal from the old neighborhood. He didn't come back. Emma became family. Real family, not the Wellington kind. She used her trust fund, seized before the FBI could freeze it, to start a foundation for first-generation college students. She was there when Luna was born on July 15th, holding my hand while I pushed, whispering that I was the strongest woman she'd ever known. She's Luna's godmother now, teaching her piano on Sundays, always staying for dinner. Luna Patricia Hayes. Yes, I named her Patricia because I'm petty enough to reclaim that name for joy. Was born at 7:30 a.m., the exact time I'd walked into that Christmas dinner. 7 pounds of perfection with my grandmother's eyes and my stubborn chin. The nurses said she was the calmest baby they'd ever seen, like she knew she was already loved enough for two parents. Anastasia Pemberton married a congressman's son 6 months later. The wedding was featured in the Times Society pages, right next to an update on the Wellington trial. She wore the ring Marcus had given her. Turns out it was paste, the real diamonds sold months before to cover debts. The photo showed her smile, tight and perfect, next to a man who looked at his phone while she looked at the camera. 4 years later, on Christmas Eve, Marcus called. Emma had warned me he would. His sister had just married Tommy, my golf instructor turned successful sports equipment entrepreneur, a man Patricia, even from her studio apartment, deemed beneath them. Charlotte. Marcus's voice was older, tired, broken by whatever manual labor had taught him. Emma married someone Mother despises. Now I understand what I put you through. Can we try again? I understand now. I was frosting cookies with Luna, her little hands covered in green icing, Christmas music playing from Grandma's old radio. Marcus, I said, watching my daughter create messy, perfect stars. You still don't fit my standards. What standards? His voice cracked with desperation. The standards where a man stands up for what's right when it costs everything. Where love means choosing someone even when the world says no. Where courage matters more than comfort. Luna looked up at me with those wise eyes, and I smoothed her hair with my flour-dusted hand. You had your chance to meet those standards. You chose differently. Then what am I supposed to do? The entitlement was still there, buried under defeat but breathing. The same thing I did. Build something real from the ashes. Learn what actual love costs. But Marcus? I paused, watching Luna place a crooked star on top of our gingerbread house, clapping with joy at her creation. You'll have to do it alone. I'm not your redemption story. I could fight for custody, he said, the last card in his empty hand. You could try, but your family's history of destroying women who don't fit their standards is well documented now. The recordings, the threats, the conspiracy, it's all public record. Do you really want Luna to grow up knowing her father chose money over her mother? That he sat silent while his family planned to destroy her? The silence stretched across 4 years of what-ifs and should-have-beens. Does she look like me? He finally asked, small and broken. No, I lied kindly. She looks like hope. This Christmas, Luna and I will sit at Grandma Rose's table, the one that's hosted 5 generations of Hayes women who built their lives from flour, determination, and the kind of love that doesn't need trust funds to validate it. The bakery's newest location opens January the 2nd in Greenwich, right across from where the Wellington estate used to stand. I bought the space with the settlement money, and we're calling it Rise Again. Because that's what bread does, and that's what we do. Emma will be there at our Christmas dinner, of course, along with her husband Tommy, who taught me golf all those years ago, and now teaches Luna to swing plastic clubs in our backyard. Janet comes with her wife and their twins, Vinny brings his entire loud Italian family, and Gladys, yes, the Wellington's former housekeeper, now manages our Brooklyn location and makes the best sourdough outside of San Francisco. We don't have charity galas or society photographers. We have flour under our fingernails and laughter that's actually real. Luna doesn't know what a trust fund is, but she knows how to count change, how to greet customers by name, and how to knead dough with her whole heart. She speaks Spanish with our delivery crew, Mandarin with Mrs. Chen next door, and Queen's English with everyone else. She's 4 years old and already knows that worth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in how you treat the person who can do nothing for you. The Wellingtons taught me something valuable, though not what they intended. They showed me that there are 2 types of standards in this world. There are the standards that build walls. The right families, the right schools, the right zip codes, the right skin colors, the right bank balances. These standards don't protect excellence. They protect mediocrity dressed in designer clothes. They create people like Marcus who mistake inheritance for accomplishment, who think love is something you can afford to give only when it costs nothing. Then there are the standards that build bridges: courage, integrity, loyalty, the willingness to choose hard truths over comfortable lies. These standards don't care where you were born or what your grandmother did for a living. They care about who you become when tested, what you choose when choosing costs everything. These are the standards that matter, the ones that last longer than mergers or trust funds. Patricia was right about one thing. I didn't fit their family's standards. Thank God for that. Their standards would have required me to shrink myself into something decorative and silent, to watch prejudice dressed as preference, to raise children who thought their value came from their last name rather than their actions. Their standards would have meant teaching Luna to apologize for taking up space, to be grateful for crumbs from tables she helped build. Instead, Luna will grow up with standards that matter. She'll know that family isn't blood or marriage certificates or shared last names. It's the people who show up at 2 a.m. when your world falls apart, who throw flour in the face of anyone who hurts you, who livestream your vindication to 20,000 strangers because justice matters more than blood relations. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd received that text at a different time, if I'd been weaker or more desperate to belong, if I'd shown up at that Christmas dinner to apologize for not fitting in, rather than to expose their rot. But then I watch Luna help at the bakery, see her give day-old bread to the homeless man on our corner, watch her count her piggy bank money to buy flowers for her teacher, and I know, the best thing the Wellingtons ever did was reject me. They freed me to find my actual worth, to build something real, to raise a daughter who will never question whether she fits, because she knows she belongs everywhere her kindness can reach. Marcus still sends Christmas cards. I don't open them, but I don't throw them away either. I keep them in a box labeled "Standards Not Met," a reminder that the best gifts sometimes come wrapped in rejection, that closed doors often lead to better rooms, that being told you don't fit might be the first step to finding where you actually belong. This year's card felt heavier. Emma told me there's money in it. Marcus's attempt to provide for Luna without having to actually show up. I'll donate it to the foundation Emma runs, let it help some other girl from Queens get through nursing school, maybe meet her own Marcus. Hopefully learn faster than I did that Prince Charming isn't the one with the castle, but the one willing to leave it for you. The truth about standards is this: everyone has them. The question is whether yours lift people up or tear them down, whether they build tables where everyone can eat, or gates that keep the hungry outside. The Wellington standards were about exclusion, about maintaining power through collective cruelty. My standards, our standards, the ones Luna will inherit, are about expansion, about making room, about recognizing that the girl needing bread at 4 a.m. might save your life in an emergency room someday, might love your son better than any merger could, might carry your grandchild with more grace than your money could ever buy, but they'll never know that now. And that's not my loss. It's theirs. What would you do if you were in her place? Tell us in the comments.